Yeah, I think the Premier nailed it. We've got to get down to business, and that's what business is about. And the leadership here and the leadership of the clean tech sector, which what I got from what Premier Clark says was to say, what I heard her say in sum, is that the clean tech sector and the clean tech companies of BC and the rest of this country, that will be the engine that will drive the future we wish to see. I'd like to now get to business. Our final speaker. Wayne Smith is the chairman and CEO of BASF Corporation. He's been leading that company for a while, and he's been in North America for the past year. You may not know BASF, you should. This is a company that has said that sustainable chemistry is possible and is taking ingenuity and ideas to do that, bringing innovation to look at the many thousands of substances that are there, identifying the ones that can't be used, identifying the ones that have to be used with incredible caution, but particularly focusing on the chemistry that can make substances better for the environment, for us. And so I welcome to the stage Wayne Smith, and I welcome to the stage Rudyard Griffiths from Bloomberg North, who will welcome to the stage Wayne Smith, who will give us some remarks and follow with a short interview. Wayne.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, the provincial premiers, the cabinet ministers, Mr. Mayor, the whole Globe team in the audience, I'd like to say good morning and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. For years, the Globe series has helped foster connections which drive sustainable innovations. And that's why we at BASF are proud to be a long-term supporter, and that's why I'm proud to be able to participate here today. Now, maybe there are a few of you in the audience who are wondering what a chemical company is doing at a conference on sustainability. Well, I'd like to share with you why we believe that, in fact, chemistry can play a tremendous role in supporting the future needs of our society and our planet. At BASF, we see chemistry as an enabler to many of the technological solutions which are needed to support our sustainability challenges. Here we go. We know that by the year 2050, our planet's population will likely exceed 9 billion people, and nearly 70% of the population will live in cities. So clearly, there are enormous challenges around topics such as energy, climate change, food and nutrition, clean water, and transportation. How can we develop solutions for these topics using resources much more effectively, while at the same time supporting the improved standard of living for people around the world? In part, this will certainly require strong global cooperation and a globally harmonized regulatory framework. World leaders made significant progress in this area at the Global Climate Conference in France last year. But what is equally important is the topic of innovation. And we at BASF believe that our industry can play a very important role. Chemistry is often invisible, yet essential to our everyday lives. From health and hygiene to transport and construction, we rely on chemistry in almost all that we do. BASF is the world's leading chemical company and has by far the broadest portfolio of technologies and products in the industry. And as such, we recognize the important role that chemistry plays in developing sustainable technologies to address these challenges. However, we also recognize that we cannot simply solve the big problems on our own. The science that we bring is just one part of the equation, and equally important is the chemistry between people, such as our customers, the communities in which we operate in, universities, governments, NGOs, and other key stakeholders. Our company's purpose statement, we create chemistry for a sustainable future, we create chemistry for a sustainable future. And we put this into practice, for example, by working closely with our customers to identify sustainability drivers and issues, and then collaborate with stakeholders along the entire product value chain to find solutions. And throughout the process, we strive to balance economic, environmental, and social responsibility. And we have many very nice examples of what can happen with the right chemistry and the right collaboration. I'd like to take a few minutes to share a few of these with you. So already on the screen here, we can talk about one of the most pressing sustainability challenges facing our society is the ability to feed a growing population. Farmers worldwide are desperate for solutions to increase yields while minimizing the impact on the environment. For over 40 years, polyethylene mulch film has been used as a solution to help plants retain water, prevent weeds, and accelerate growth. However, this technique creates environmental challenges when the time comes to harvest. First, farmers must make sure they remove all the plastic from the ground or it causes soil erosion. Then they need to dispose of the plastic as it's often too fragmented to recycle. And this has become widely recognized as white pollution. In countries like China, where the area of farmland covered by plastic mulch film is more than 200,000 square kilometers in 2015, that's twice the landmass of South Korea. Now, recognizing this problem, BASF scientists work with farmers to understand the challenges they face, and then we collaborated with the companies that produce this mulch film to replace the polyethylene that they traditionally use with our biodegradable polymer called EcoVio. EcoVio has the same technical properties as mulch film, such as thermal insulation, water retention, UV resistance. However, EcoVio is made from bio-based components, and it biodegrades into water, biomass, and CO2, allowing the farmers to simply plow it under the soil with what remains of the plants. What's even better is the same biopolymer has found application in food packaging, waste management, making composting much easier and driving us further along the path of a reduced environmental footprint. Our chemistry is also helping to enhance the effectiveness of the energy industry as BASF works with partners to develop areas in the renewable energy field. Countries like Canada are taking advantage of the reliable and increasingly cost-effective electricity offered by wind energy. In fact, over the last 5 years, Canada's wind energy capacity has grown on average by 23% per year. The wind turbines that power this industry are huge infrastructure investments, and they require innovative and high-quality solutions. BASF is collaborating with producers to provide chemistry that help turbines reach their optimal performance, from the tower to the base to the blades, and to reduce ongoing maintenance costs. Wind turbines, especially those that operate offshore, they operate in harsh environments. High winds, rain, and hail. The blades can exceed 100 meters in length, operate under high stress with enormously fast tip speeds, and they must operate reliably for many, many years. Understanding this challenge, BASF scientists have identified materials to make the rotor blades more durable, including high-performance protective coatings and high-performance glass fiber and epoxy systems under the trade names Boxador and Rellist. And we've coated more than 30,000 rotor blades since we've started this program. Another example of where chemistry can support sustainable infrastructure comes in the construction industry. The construction, housing, and demolition of buildings together account for about 40% of global energy consumption and about 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. Concrete is the most widely used construction material in the world, and the core active ingredient in concrete, cement, is produced in a very energy-intensive process. In fact, cement production accounts for approximately 10% of the world's CO2 emissions. Our scientists were able to develop a solution which helps address this problem, which we call GreenSense Concrete. GreenSense Concrete is an optimized mixture program which utilizes special BASF additives. And by using this product, builders are able to replace up to 78% of the cement with recycled materials. They also use 26% less energy, reduce CO2 emissions by up to 45%, and in addition, save 22 liters of water for every cubic meter of concrete that is poured. This product's been well received in the market and was used, for example, in the construction of the New York City Freedom Tower, as shown on this slide. Now, I've given an example regarding the construction of buildings, but we can also talk about examples of what goes on inside buildings. Our teams have been collaborating with a creative furniture manufacturer, Maria Yi, who manufactures products for companies such as Target and Crate & Barrel. Maria Yi was looking for a way to use more sustainable materials in furniture, chairs, shelves, cabinets, without compromising costs, quality, or safety. They were searching for an environmentally friendly alternative to the use of plywood or MDF, containing no toxins and no formaldehyde. Now, the result of our joint collaboration was a product called Lux. Lux is a lightweight biocomposite material using plant fibers based on advanced lightweight technology that originally was inspired from work done in the European automotive industry. Lux features a revolutionary use of natural fiber material and enables innovative and sustainable furniture design. Now, just as we drive product innovations, we also know we must further develop our production processes. The chemical industry is, at its core, an energy-intensive industry. But by focusing on process innovations, we are seeing significant progress. We operate our large manufacturing sites in a highly integrated way, which we call the Verbund. We look for every possible way to balance energy-producing processes with energy-consuming processes, and to capture all of the byproducts and either turn them into something useful or recycle them in the process. And in addition, interconnect every possible production facility by pipeline to minimize transportation costs and energy requirements, and to recycle processed water wherever possible, and so on. By doing so, compared to operating our sites in a more traditional fashion, we estimate that we save about 6 million tons of CO2 emissions each and every year, and that we also save about 1 billion euros of operating expenses. Since 2002, we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions per ton of product produced by 34%, and we look to increase this to more than 40% by 2020. We've improved our energy efficiency overall as a company by 20% compared to the same baseline, and by 2020, we target to reduce the use of drinking water in our processes by 50% compared to 2010. So we've made good progress, but it's clear we have more work to do. But the good news is we're very confident that we can continue on this path and drive further and further improvements. Whether it be connections in our processes, connections with our customers, or connections along the value chain, at BASF we recognize that these connections form the chemistry which will shape the future of our planet. With that in mind, I encourage you to take the opportunity to fully explore this impressive event this week, to learn about new industries, new technologies, meet new people, and explore new and innovative ways in which we can work together to ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Great, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Rudyard Griffiths. I'm the host of Bloomberg North on Bloomberg Canada Television. It's my privilege to have the opportunity to have a chat now with Wayne to build on what we heard in his presentation. And I think, Wayne, our objective should be to give this audience some actionable insights into the twin themes of this conference, innovation and collaboration. So starting there, talk to us a bit first about your company internally. You gave an example there at the end of the efficiencies that you're trying to drive through your own manufacturing processes, but go a little bit deeper for us about the trends of innovation and collaboration inside, and as a corporate entity, where you see both the challenge and the opportunity occurring,
Sure.
and the urgency of that for BASF.
Sure, thank you. So maybe I start with just a little bit of history about how we've thought about sustainability. You know, if you go back quite some years, I would say we were more focused on the envelope of our company. You know, the raw materials that come in, the products that go out, and everything inside, trying to be as efficient and productive as possible, minimize damage to the environment. This was our primary, say, traditional focus. And I gave some statistics on how we've tried to improve efficiencies and emissions and such. We set a bunch of long-term targets way back in 2002. We set 2020 targets, about 15 different categories, and we stay on that path of getting more and more efficient. In fact, some of those targets for reducing various emissions were as much as 80% reductions is what we committed to. But that was the historical way of thinking about how we can make a difference. And we started to think, you know, we should think beyond our own envelope. And we can give an example where we start to think about suppliers. So how can we ensure sustainability and good approaches in the supply chain? So we've joined some approaches, we call it Together for Sustainability, to review supplier processes. And we've assessed more than 500 BASF suppliers from a sustainability standpoint. We've audited more than, I think, 120 for strict environmental health and safety sort of practices. So it's extending beyond that envelope. But then what's, I would say, the most exciting is what we've started to talk about here today is let's think about the technologies and the products that we can produce, how we can make a difference. And this is where it gets exciting from our standpoint, what chemistry can do. We've evaluated everything we produce, and we said, if our customers use these materials versus alternative approaches, how much CO2, for instance, can be avoided each and every year. And the figure that we come up with is more than 500 million tons of CO2 avoidance by using some of these technologies, some of the things I talked about. If I could take a minute.
Yeah, let's go to a few more
examples.
concrete examples, because I think that's what the audience wants to hear.
Sure. So let me give you a couple of examples in the automotive industry, a little bit more in construction and with consumers. In the automotive industry, we have a tremendous focus on working with engineering, plastics, and polymers to replace metals, to take weight out of cars so that you reduce the amount of fuel used, you reduce the amount of CO2 you produce. Today, a typical car might have 15 or 20% engineering plastic in there, but it's still 60 to 65% steel or aluminum, and there's no question we can go further. So we have intensive programs with all the automotive companies in this area. We also work along those same lines with electrification. So Mrs. Clark talked about electrification. All of the automotive companies in the world are driving hard on some kind of form of electrification, whether it's a pure electric vehicle or a hybrid. And from a chemistry standpoint, the value in lithium-ion batteries is all in the chemistry, in the cathode materials, in the anode materials, the electrolytes. So this also gets us excited. We're investing heavily in this area. In the consumer products area, I talked a little bit about EcoVio. We use this in packaging. We also have some other examples. We just started up a new production facility in the southern United States, producing a phosphate alternative for detergent manufacture. And then we've got an interesting one that we're pouring a lot of research money into, and this is for appliances, refrigerators. How can we make them more efficient? If you look at the refrigeration industry, you go back to like 1980 and compare it to today, the efficiency has been driven down by about 50%. And I'll use a European example because we're a European company. If you add up all the refrigeration capacity in Europe and you apply that 50% efficiency improvement, that's the equivalent of 2 to 3, say, world-scale nuclear power plants. So it makes a real difference. Now, what we work on are some new materials called, using a magnetocaloric process, that these are materials that if you apply a magnetic field on and off next to, the material cools. And we can imagine we could drive that efficiency another 35% forward if we're successful with this. So again, it's just an example of chemistry, how we think we can add to some of the solutions. And maybe finally, my final example in the construction industry, because this one always intrigues me. We have these microspheres that we can distribute, called micronel, in various construction materials to keep buildings cool. So what they are is they're little microspheres with a wax material inside. And when the temperature rises and gets to about 23 degrees C, the wax inside melts and absorbs the heat. So if you disperse these into wall board or gypsum board or mortar or plaster, when the temperature rises in the summertime, reaches 23 degrees C, it absorbs the energy and keeps the house cool. You can control it 3, 4, 5 degree range. And then at night, when it gets cold outside, it releases the heat and the wax solidifies again, and you keep the house warm with no external mechanical refrigeration. So again, this is what gets us excited about the research opportunities that are out there.
Tell us, Wayne, when you're sitting there as chairman and CEO, how do you prioritize? You know, you've just talked about a whole series of different opportunities and innovation. What is it that allows you to screen those opportunities for the company and then decide what's going to go into the pipeline and what ultimately is going to end up in market?
Sure. I mean, we have to start with our customers. I mean, if we think about research and development, where we put our money, I would say we start with two things. One is broad megatrends, like we talked about, population growth, urbanization, mobility challenges. And then we listen to our customers. What are their challenges? Now, our customers are not necessarily end consumers. Our customer's customer might be an end consumer, but everybody has the same drive towards these major trends. And we get a lot of innovation ideas from that whole customer network, and this is how we try to prioritize our projects.
Interesting. So you're getting feedback from your customers. They're coming to you often with problems. You're solving that problem, and through that process, you're identifying new products for market.
Sure, and what I would say is we can't wait for someone to approach us. We have to be completely integrated. We need to be with them every day, as close as possible, listening to them, brainstorming with them, and this is where we get most of our ideas, I would say.
Wayne, we just heard from the Prime Minister, from Christy Clark, the Premier of British Columbia. Talk to us a bit about corporations, your view from the C-suite, and the interaction with government. Government clearly wants to act as a bit of a referee here to incentivize. To what extent is that constructive and productive, and in what scenarios can it actually be an impediment to innovation and collaboration?
No, I mean, I think it's all about collaboration. We can't operate in a vacuum as a private company and have success. We need to collaborate with universities, NGOs, scientific institutes, governments in a very productive way. I think, for instance, the COP21 activity was a very, very good step to get more and more engagement around the world. From a company standpoint, we're fully supportive of these initiatives, but we need a level playing field. We can't have a few wealthy companies setting standards here, but nobody else following along, then we simply can't compete and we won't survive. But the more and more people we get on board, like you are, like they were with COP21, this is a fantastic, say, directional move. The other area which is important from a government and a private industry standpoint is to develop proper incentives and a proper framework for the future. A lot of this is around technology. So if I look at our research and development spend, we spend about $2 billion a year on R&D. About 3/4 of that is relatively near term. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year horizon. So it's incremental improvement in technology. About 1/4 is the long-term 5, 10, 15-year things that are low probability of success, but we have to do it. And this is where I think government incentives to support these investments is critically important. I was at a energy conference supported by the U.S. Department of Energy earlier this week to talk about these various programs. And they're really looking at long-term, say, breakthrough technologies. They're putting money forward. We've had joint collaboration with them in the past. This happens in Europe as well as North America. These are the kinds of things that I think work very, very well.
So you're talking about the outer edge then of the
Correct.
kind of innovation curve. That's where you think government can get the biggest bang for its collective buck.
Private industry, unfortunately, has a shorter term horizon because we have to show a return to our shareholders. We need to think long term, but the more support we can get to provide that, say, framework, the better. Absolutely.
Great. Well, let's go there just for our final moments together, because at Bloomberg and in the business media, we're partly to blame for that short-term fixation. What's your quarterly results? What are your forecasts? Sure. Please, sir, tell us more. So how do you balance that tension between your ultimate responsibility, which is to your shareholders, who've given you their capital, versus the series of quite ambitious principles and philosophies and ideas that we've already had discussed and tabled this morning?
Yeah, I mean, there's always tension and there's always pressure between the short term and the long term. What I would say is I've worked at a few different companies over time. I'm very proud at BASF that they have a very long-term time horizon. The company's been around for 150 years, very strategic. When we went through the financial crisis in 2009, when as a company we were very blind to the near-term future, we couldn't see what was happening anywhere, we made the decision not to reduce our R&D spend that year. It could have easily been cut to try to be safe and protective, and we said, no, this is the lifeblood of what we do for the medium and the long term, and we have to keep it going. So it's a culture that we try to force, even though there's tension between short and long term. We try to force that long-term look at BASF.
Wayne, just finally, from your view, running this company, what are you looking for out there to suggest that the larger tide has really turned? And that the optimism in this room, amongst this community, we're adherents, we're believers, is trickling out to that larger group of CEOs and chairmen that you're meeting with who frankly may not share the same enthusiasm and excitement that you have for this type of innovation?
Yeah, I mean, well, we know we can make a difference, and we see the momentum building, frankly. Again, we don't deal directly with consumers typically. It can be a long chain of our customers, the end consumer. So there's an industrial chain here, but we see the drive increasing. I mean, the drive to reduce energy, the drive to reduce emissions, the drive to improve yields, so you use less raw materials, whatever they are. It's building momentum. I don't know that it's a logarithmic build, but it's steady and it's solid and it's real. It's absolutely real.
Great. Well, Wayne Smith, I think on behalf of everybody, a big thank you to BSAF for being an important partner in this event. And I know we look forward to seeing the innovation curve rocket off with you and your colleagues. So everybody, please, a big thank you for Wayne.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Sit down.